Hey there, and welcome back. It is Wednesday at 12:15. You know what that means, the Orlando Homeowner Show, where we talk with you about what's happening in real estate. We're talking to specifically hyperlocal Orlando, yet some of the stuff we're talking about today is going to be even on the national scale. So stay tuned. We've got a great co-host with me today. It's Ray Lopez. Ray's been licensed for the last 17 years. His team sold over 3,000 homes in 3 different markets, services Pensacola, Gainesville, and right here in Orlando. He's also an operating principal and franchise owner of Keller Williams, where we are also business partners there. So we've got some great talk about what's happening in the market and what changes has the market seen specifically with all this COVID and technology ramping up. So we'll be right back. Ray Lopez, thanks for jumping on the show. How are you, sir?
Good. How's everybody out there?
Well, we'll see how they are right now. We've got a couple of viewers that are here. And then, of course, if you guys are watching this at any point, we can see your comments. So if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, go ahead and type in your questions for Ray or I. Top in your comments. Keep them nice. We want to make sure we play it nice there. And we can answer for you here. And if you are watching this, we are live every Wednesday at 12:15 with different professionals around the home ownership. So whether it's a roofer, painter, landscaper, or local economist like Ray is here today. So Ray, thanks for jumping on. And as people come in, we'll answer their questions. Ray, I put out to the Orlando Mastermind page a couple weeks back of who's the person that knows the market, studies the market, trusts the market that you just want to learn from. And overwhelmingly, your name popped up, which doesn't surprise me. You've been a mentor of mine for a bit there. So thanks for jumping on and sharing some of the wisdom today.
Well, thank you, Rick, for having me on. It's all about the numbers for me, and it's all about teaching homeowners and potential homeowners and past homeowners what's going on in the market, because typically it's your biggest asset, right? So you want to know, is it going up? Is it going down? And where is it going in the future? And what's great is you've always been part of that, with me and my teams. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I really, being a team leader and being your team leader for several years, and then ramping up and building up our own business the last 2 years, I've really sought out that same philosophy of be a local economist of choice, understand the numbers. If we can teach our consumers and make the best decision for their net worth and for their assets, ultimately it may or may not result in a sale or listing for us, yet we're going to be those trusted advisors. So thanks for leading the pavement there. Let's dive right into it, because we've got a whole lot to talk about, Ray. And every month, our board sends us this market pulse. And I know you've studied this. In fact, you not only study it every month, you've archived it, where you have this market pulse that goes back all the way to, I think you said 2010. Is as far as this goes back?
It actually goes back to 2005. So
you've got the last 15 years. You're looking at it. And now we're going to get a glimpse of going, so what does this mean right now for the homeowners right now who are thinking about buying, thinking about selling, thinking about investing, thinking about refinancing? What does this report tell us? And I've got the mouse, so you tell me where you want me to scroll. Let's just talk through this thing real quick.
Well, first and foremost, let's stay where you're at. If you look at October of 18, which was 2 years ago, and the market pulse, just to give a real quick overview, it's going to give us a two-year year-over-year trend of what's happened in the market, from interest rates to inventory to homes under contract, all the way to sales closed and days on market. Everything that we need to know when we're buying and selling houses and advising people and giving them the best advice. Okay, so in knowing that, it's great to see, right now the average 30-year loan, conventional loan, is coming in for the average person at 2.75%. All right. 2 years ago,
down here for that 2.72, yes, 2.75.
So it's even going a little bit lower. But 2 years ago, if you look back up at the top, we're at 4.85%. So a lot of people ask me, why has it dropped so much in the last 2 years? I mean, that's over 2 points. So just to give you round numbers, Rick, if you were to buy a $400,000 house conventionally, the payment differential in those 2 points is somewhere right around $500 to $600 a month. That's just in savings and interest rate alone. So that's what's absolutely nuts when you look at that.
And last week we had an interview with Dustin Owen of Waterstone Mortgage, who really went in deep as to why these are staying low, with what the government's doing with the bonds and the Fed, and how it works that market there. So if you want to go deeper into that, check out last week's episode with
Perfect.
Dustin Owen. So yeah, thanks for that, Ray.
So
Keep going.
what's great as a realtor, we have to make people understand that a lot of the deals that you're finding on the buy side are in the interest rate. Okay, so I bought my first house in 1998 with my fiance at the time, and that is my wife now. We actually bought our townhouse for 8.25% was the interest rate. Yep. 8.25. Well, I called my mom and said, "Hey, mom, buying this townhouse," and my mom says, "Well, what's your interest rate?" And I said, "Well, it's 8.25," and she says, "Well, that's better than mine from the 80s at 18%." So right now,
perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all about perspective. So I'm sure Dustin talked about interest rates and went in deep. So what we need to look at is what really directly affects our market in real estate. Okay, so if real estate's like any other business, it's the supply and demand economics 101, supply versus demand. Our inventory, which is our first bracket after interest rates, our inventory right now, when you look at it, if 10,000 homes for sale is what we're supposed to be year after year, right now we're at 5,800 total homes for sale. So
that's including single family condos, townhomes. So
correct.
The single family market's all different, but everything for sale in Aura. Now remind us, what does Aura? We know it's Orlando Regional Realtors, but essentially I've shared it's the I-4 corridor, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
It is. So the counties that make that up. But if you think about that, Rick, that's almost 42% down to where we need to be. So right now it is a super duper seller's market. Sellers are getting top dollar. The problem is now they have to go back out. They have to go out and buy a house. And as I
I'm going to push pause there real quick. I want to unpack that. You said 42% down. Where did you come up with that number? How is it 42% down?
So if 10,000 is the normal,
okay,
right? So we talked about that earlier. If 10,000 is where we sit like to be normal inventory in Orlando, and now we're at 5,800, 5,840. So we're down almost 42%.
Okay. So using 10,000 as a baseline. Got it.
There you go. And then, so now these folks are getting top dollar for the price of and selling their home, the listing people. Now they go out, now they have to go compete to find a house in this low inventory. Yeah. Well, this is what is very unsettling to me is because of COVID, and we're going to talk about this, we've had the biggest October that we've ever had. We've had the biggest September that we've ever had. Okay. August is typically pretty solid at, right around 3,500 is, not bad.
Sure.
But September and October are super summer months, and they're typically the slowdown in the market. What's scary is we're selling that many homes, Rick, with low inventory.
So you're looking at the sales closed portion. If I were to focus in on here a little bit, sales closed last October, 2 years ago was 2,900, September 27. Last year, 29, September 29. This year, 36, 35. So it went up, by another 500 or 600. Well, that's 15 to 20% more sales than we're used to, with inventory being 42% down as opposed to 22% down. So not only are we in a seller's market, these past 60 days have put us even further in a seller's market, is what I'm hearing from you.
That's exactly what you're hearing from me.
So what does this mean? You guys just spent, your team in Orlando is your hub. It's your home base. You guys just spent a couple days together, business planning, doing advanced retreat, forecasting what's going to happen in 2021. I'm curious, not only with the challenges of the inventory that we're having, also with COVID, with now Zoom, here we are on live stream, with the way that in a matter of 6 months, the world has learned to do business virtually. How has your business changed in the way, or how do you think real estate is going to change in the way it's conducted in 2021 versus even what it was last year or 2019?
Yeah, I think the whole Corona thing has kind of turned the world on its head. The good thing for us is, I think as Florida, people, love Florida for many reasons. They love the weather. They love the tax. We don't have a state income tax. They love that we have homestead for 2 different reasons. I was actually talking to another agent at a very nice listing because the listing agent had to be there. And I was there with our termite inspector, and me and the other agent were discussing this. And the termite inspector said, "You didn't even cover my favorite thing about Florida." And I said, "So what is that?" And he says, "Well, I'm from New York, New Jersey, and I love that they can't take your house away when it's your primary residence in Orlando. So they can't stick you. This is almost like a Teflon house. They can't stick things on it. And so it can never be taken away from you unless you don't pay your mortgage or your HOA. So, the good thing about COVID is you can still work for your company in New York where you used to have to go in. Now you can live in Florida and Zoom from there. And so I'm having people that are starting to do that. So we will always be strong in real estate. People were already migrating down from the Northeast. That's kind of the way we are. But they're coming down even more in droves because we're Florida, we're cheaper, less taxes, good weather. There's a laundry list of why people move to Florida and or the South. There was an article, and it was all based on Redfin numbers, Rick, and it talked about how many people were looking to move out of New York versus into New York. And there was 39,000 more people looking to move out of New York in the third quarter than to move to New York. And that's Florida.
Because you and I sorry to interrupt there, you and I look at the local market all the time, yet we hear from Gary Keller and from Inman News and from other people on stage of what's happening nationally. Are you seeing a shift already happening in these other cities like New York? Because we've been preparing for a shift. When we say a shift, we've been preparing to go from a seller's market to buyer's market for the last 4 years because we've been going 12 years straight. Yet here we are in Orlando, and they just keep coming in drones. Not only is that, home buyers are going for 2.75. Yeah, I'll take that mortgage versus paying my fluctuating rent that goes up every year because the rental market's insane. Are you seeing that other parts of the market are already starting to shift into that balanced or buyer's market, or not even yet?
Not yet, because the inventory is low everywhere. So one of the benefits for me working at Keller Williams, I get a lot of incoming referrals, and I like to talk to the agent about the market that the referrals coming from. Yeah. So I want to know their mindset when they're looking to buy something here, right? So a lot of places are still very heavy seller markets because of low inventory. And there's, we can talk about why inventory is low. That was a big subject of my retreat, of trying to understand the market to be able to discuss with people why it is the way it is and why it's not going to change overnight. Okay, so in your question,
let's not do that, only because I'm looking at the clock and there's a lot of meat I want to go. So if you could summarize that with the homeowners now, or the consumers who are thinking about doing real estate in 2021, what do they need to know about? Because we always say if you look to time it perfectly, by the time it's perfect, you're 3 months behind, right? So it's not a timing game. When your buyers or sellers or friends or family say, Ray, I'm thinking about selling or I'm thinking about investing, what is your elevator response of why it is or maybe it isn't a good time for them? Do you have one? I know you do.
I sure do. So right now, the value is in the interest rate and is the seller getting top dollar. Okay, so there will never be another time in history as we fast forward for somebody to get a 2.75% interest rate. And the Fed said probably for the next year at least, we can keep it here because we don't want a recession, right? With the election, with COVID, with the whole social movement, the social equality, there's a lot going on, and they just don't want to blow everything up by raising rates. So they're going to do their part. They're going to do whatever it takes to keep everything stable. So if you can buy and get a interest rate like that, last week we closed 2 loans, 2.25% at closing.
Wow.
Good for the buyers, right?
Now, lock that in for 30 years.
So they get top dollar when they sell. They're going to probably pay market price or maybe a little bit over market to get what they want. But because of the low payment, a lot of times they're trading up and they still have the same payment as the house that they got out of, because they're trading up, getting the pool, getting the 4th bedroom, just trying to fit their life inside of life. And the interest rate is the benefit right now.
Yeah. I agree with that. I've always said it's the perfect storm right now because yes, we're in a seller's market, yet buyer, don't let that give you fear or give you hesitation, because if you wait for us to be in a buyer's market, well, the home values continue to increase 10% year over year. The interest rate's going to go up another 2 or 3 points. It's going to cost you way more just to have your choice because there is enough out there. We just have to be strategic with how we're writing offers for our buyers, because almost every time if a house is priced correctly, in a week it has multiple offers. At least we're seeing here in our local market. You mentioned a little bit offline with me before of 2010. And my 10-year anniversary as a realtor is coming through. It's December 3rd, 2010. I shared an office over at Keller Williams Waterford with you. And I remember specifically my first team meeting, the average price point was $97,000 in 2010.
Yep.
2010, 2011 was the bottom of the Great Recession. And so talk to me about inventory. When you say 10,000 is what we want, about 3,500 homes are selling. What did the inventory look like in 2010?
Okay, so put the market pulse back up and go to the bottom to where we're at now. So these numbers will be more impactful. So under inventory, well, interest rates back then were 4.28%. So they weren't crazy because the Fed was already trying to stabilize the Great Recession through interest rates.
Okay.
Remember, they were at 8 when I bought, and then they got down to 4.28. So everybody was happy with that. Yep. Inventory now is 5,840. Back then it was 15,441.
So another 10,000. So if anything, it was 50% above that kind of balanced, steady market.
Correct. It was a super buyer's market back then. When you were selling a house, you were taking a lot of abuse. You were lowering your price. And then as far as the sales go, over in the second to the last column, last month we had 3,634 homes sold. And back October 2010, Rick, we had 1,953 homes that were sold, which is a very low number. But again, October is traditionally a little bit slower.
Yeah.
And normal, we typically have about 2,500 in the normal market. And of course, now you see at 3,600, that's big numbers for October and a slow time of the year.
So we talk about supply and demand, and the way we talk about buyer's market, seller's market is based on months of inventory. So if we do the math real quick, and I don't have a calculator up, but you might, or we could do it in our head. Inventory right now of 5,800. If nothing else lists and we keep selling 3,600 a month, then in what, about 6.5 weeks, we're out of homes to sell?
Yep. That's
so in under 2 months. So we're 1.5 to 2 months of inventory. Anything less than 5 months is a seller's market.
Yep.
Rewind back to 2010 of 15,000 homes with 2,000 selling. We're about 7 or 8 months.
8 months. Yep.
Which is even close to balance, not even buyers. Do you recall when it was the most heavy buyer's market in terms of a supply and demand?
Yep. In 2006, we had late 2005, our inventory went down to 3,800 homes, and we were selling over 3,000. So I think we sold 3,100, and we only had 3,800 in inventory. So we were almost turning the market every month in 2005.
Yep.
That's why we got into the craziness that we got into as far as the market collapsing, because on the converse to that, Rick, in 2007, in the summer of 2007, we got to 26,000 homes for sale. And in September of that year, as a whole board, we only sold 830 as a whole board every year. So we were over 30 months of inventory. So
in 2 years.
In 2 years, it switched that fast. So
and is that the foreclosure market that was hitting?
That went before it. That's why it went into foreclosure. So the first thing is most people that hear that say, can this market do that? Right? Because that's the natural question. I probably get that.
Waiting for the bubble to pop. Yep.
Maybe I should wait for that to happen. That's what I've been hearing for the last few years. Sure. Maybe I should wait for everything. And you mentioned that in the beginning of the show, right? What are the questions that people are asking about this crazy market? I get that question asked more than anything. So this is the true answer, just being a student of the market. This new market right now, you have to have good credit. So one of the people that closed the house at 2.25%, I said, what was the difference between you buying in 2005 and now, 15 years later? And he goes, back then, I signed a few papers for application. They didn't need any documentation. I closed, it was nice and easy. It was the easiest thing that I could ever done. Now they're pulling teeth. They had to recheck something. They checked their appraisal. It was like a rough flight coming into land.
Yeah, we had one. They went 3 years back on tax returns just to verify stability of income for an FHA bond. And it was because in 2006, I bought my first house as a brand new graduate of UCF with a job offer. Never even sat down to my first day of work, let alone got a paycheck, let alone a year of proven income. They were giving out mortgages like they're giving out pieces of candy.
Yeah. So this market's built with the good credit and the cash.
Good.
So that's, and now people, because like you mentioned, Rick, since 2011, when we hit the bottom, every year's been better, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if anybody's bought a house 1 year or later, they have equity in their houses. So these people that have lost their jobs due to COVID, that might not be able to pay for them, the good thing is that they've lived in their houses for 2 years or longer, they have equity, so they're not willing to let them go like they did in 2008 and 9 when there was no equity in the houses.
Yeah, I agree. And we might see a surplus in inventory with people who need to sell to downsize or with forbearance, yet it's not going to be a foreclosure rate because they're not going to be short. They can keep paying. Why would you get kicked out of your house and lose everything as opposed to sell it and at least walk away with your equity to go pay rent cash for 2 years to get back on your feet or to another down payment? And I don't want to dive too quick for this, but do you have a recommendation, Mr. Homeowner or Mrs. Homeowner, if your interest rate is X or above, refinance now? Are you giving any advice out to that extent?
Well, I am for two reasons. One, I don't know if Dustin talked about it, on December 1st, Fannie and Freddie are going to do the aggregate market adjustment. Did he talk about that?
Nope.
Okay, so this is the thing. If you're listening today and you're thinking refi, you have to get it going now. Okay, and this is why. Come December 1st, there's going to be a junk fee added, and this is across the board, to anybody that's refining their house, not purchases. Anybody that's refining their houses, they're going to add 0.5% of what you're refining. So if it's a $400,000 refi, it's going to be $2,000 in junk fee, 0.5. So if you lock everything in before December 1st, so you need to start shopping now. But if you decide and you can't figure it out until December 10th, $2,000. I mean, just
it costs $2,000 just to wait.
Extra.
Is that an indefinite fee or is that a short-term fee? And then
I think that as long as the market's this hot for refis, they're going to keep that there. Sure. And then your question was, if I have a rate of, typically if it's 1 point better or greater. So if I have a 3.75 and I can get 2.6, then that makes sense. Yep. You have to look at how long you're going to be in the house. I typically say, make sure you're going to be in it for safety reasons, at least 5 years, to recoup your closing cost. Because when people say we're going to pay your closing cost, that's not everything.
You're financing your closing costs. Yeah.
You are. So just
your principal just went up, your monthly went down because of that point. Yeah, I just refied, and it was great when you say, oh, it's a no cash refi. Well, my principal went from 424 to 436. I'm going, I don't want to increase principal. Here's a check. Let me get back down. Yeah, it is a little bit, and we're going sidebar here, but that always is a annoyance when we say sellers are paying closing costs. Sellers aren't paying anything. You're financing your closing costs. You're paying for those extra closing costs there. Hey, we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, and like I said, I knew we would go down this a little bit. Yet I want to talk about how the industry has changed. Specifically, we see Zillow getting their brokerage, Amazon getting the real estate game. We've got companies out there like Purple Brick and Compass and the iBuyers. We have Keller Offers, and I've actually got a Keller Offers iBuyer closing in 2 or 3 weeks. So I love that Gary Keller is able to incorporate that. We can offer that as a service as well. Yet, what does the industry need to know, or what is the value of the realtor with us versus these other technology real estate companies? What are your just kind of 2 cents on that?
Okay, so when the iBuyer came to Orlando 4 years ago, I remember going into a house to list it, and it was a referral. And the lady says, you know what, I really like what you're saying, and I think I'm going to use you. But she pulls out this card, and it was an open door card, and I'd never seen it. So I love to know everything before I walk into something. And she said,
blinds that a little bit, just 4 years ago.
And I said, so what does this mean? So I told her, give me a few days, let me do some research. It started out in Arizona, so I was able to talk to agents out there about what was going on. The bottom line to the iBuyer is they're going to buy your house and flip it. Okay. Yeah. Either you can make the equity in the flip, or they can. Now, for people that don't have the money to make their house look nicer, then maybe the iBuyer isn't bad if you have a lot of equity in it. You have to know that the equity comes from you. They're buying your house not to do you a favor. They're buying their house to make money to their bottom line because they're a company. So my job as a realtor is to keep in touch with my database, like the people that are viewing today, and let them know there's nothing wrong with the iBuyer. Just know that they're making the money off of your house that you should be making. So contact me today, get a quote from them. Let's talk about what it's worth. You'll see the difference of what they're making and you'll be amazed.
Yeah, and you'll be able to. The deal I have right now was a referral. It's a woman who bought it in 1994. She's a retirement age, no mortgage, and she wants to choose her date, choose her convenience. I told her we'd get about 175 in the retail if we listed it. We've got to change some polybutylene pipes out a little bit, and they offered her 145 minus fees, where she's netting 130. She's leaving about $20,000 on the table. She knows that. When we think of 20,000 and 175, it's about 12% she's leaving on the table. And she said yes for two reasons. Number one, she can walk away. She owns it. She bought it for way less than that back in 94. Number two, the market's way more than she thought. So she had a number in her head. And these iBuyers are coming in and going, that's the number I had in my head, because they have no idea how hot the market is. You know, and my goal is to have that as a resource for them, yet make sure that it's not the only one that says you can do more if you want to do this, and we do things properly. So yeah, I'm glad we brought that up, because it is something that people are paying for convenience. We see it with Uber Eats. We see it that they're happy to pay a 20% surcharge for you to deliver me Chipotle than if I just got in my car and went to Chipotle myself.
Yeah.
Now 20% on a burrito versus a home is a much bigger ticket. Yet the principle's still there with convenience, right? I've got live stream to HBO and Hulu and Netflix and CBS and Disney Plus, and I still have cable so I can watch my live sports. And I'm like, I keep paying for it because it's super convenient. So it's still going to be there. If you guys are watching right now, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. If you guys want to stay in touch with Ray or where you can find him, there's his comments, questions below. Where are we at? Oh, there's Dustin. Sorry, I messed up, Ray. I didn't get to keep your banner there. Where's the website they can reach you? They can reach you at?
It's Ray Lopez. It's RayLopezTeam.com. It's that easy.
Perfect. RayLopezTeam.com. If you guys want to stay in touch with him, if you've got any questions about any market, this guy's going to know what it is. If you have questions, pop it in there. As we're wrapping up, Ray, what's kind of the final word of advice as the local real estate economist of choice? What are you saying to, as a whole? What does 21 look like? What are you doing as an investor yourself, from commercial to residential? Talk to me about that as we close up here.
Two things. One, the lady that you sold your house Keller offers for, call me next time. I'd love to buy that and make the 20,000.
Sure.
That's just, as a realtor, I'm always looking for a good deal.
Yep.
Only if the client is happy with the deal we make.
Sure.
Right? Because we want to make sure it's a win-win for both sides. But more importantly, on the real estate side of things, it's projected that 2021 is going to be a lot like this year. Okay, low interest rates, low inventory. If you're a buyer, get ready to compete. But if you're going to get the house that you want to live in next, whether it's upgrade, downgrade, whatever, you just have to know that the interest rate is the good deal right now. Because if in 2 years it goes back to 4.85, you're going to be kicking yourself, because that payment's going to be a lot higher for you to get the dream house that you want or the next house. So leverage the interest rates to get what you want. Find your good realtor that can help you find and seek out exactly what you're looking for. And that's the value of the realtor, is we're working real time. Rick, I probably get between 5 and 10 leads a day from things like Zillow. And most of the time people are looking at houses that aren't even for sale. And they're very frustrated because they're calling agent after agent. And by the time they get to me, I'm just like, why are you shopping on Zillow? Let me do this. Let me get you on something that's real time, and let us help you find something, soon. And because we list a lot of properties and we know the market, we can help you get the best deal possible when we find the now house. So right. That's our value.
Inventory. Well, yeah. And I love that the value of you and I as realtors. I had a referral come through. She wants to move up. She's in a 3-2, no pool. She wants a 4-2 with a pool. She said, what can I sell it for? And when I found out what her mortgage is versus what she owes versus what she can sell it, I advised her as an option of going, turn that into a rental. If you need the down payment, you can do a refi, do a cash out, still be at your mortgage interest rate that you'll cash flow your rents, by $400 or $500, take your down payment, go get your next house. And now we're building wealth there as well. So I think there's another neat opportunity for homeowners right now of how can we do some HELOCs or cash out refi to leverage the money to buy some more investments to lock in rates at this sub 3%. So I love that you brought up that opportunity to invest. And that is a goal that, OfferPad or iBuyers are out there. And the first house we go into, I am the first buyer, then my team, then my investors, and then it goes beyond there. And I encourage you guys who are watching this, think of that as yourself. Let's diversify your assets. Warren Buffett, who's one of the millionaires, talks about, making it in real estate. So if you guys are watching this out there, real estate is stable. It is safe. That'll be a different conversation for a different show. But Ray, thanks so much for jumping on here. Thanks for your partnership and friendship and mentorship. And we'll see you guys next week. It is Thanksgiving week. We're still going to be live with Rich Carpentieri. We're going to do some mindset, talking about gratitude and how he stays centered and focused and making sure we can reflect of all the craziness that happened here in 2021 with some gratitude. So until then, like us, subscribe us, follow us, check out Ray, check out us, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ray.